Hey everyone, and welcome back to Meghan and Harry Tales, the channel where we dive deep into the untold stories behind the headlines. Today, we're talking about something that's been simmering beneath the surface for years, something that reveals just how complicated life really is for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, even thousands of miles away from the palace walls. We're talking about their children's royal titles and the quiet battle that's been fought to protect them. Now, this isn't just palace gossip. This story touches on family loyalty, institutional power plays, and what it really means to protect your children when the whole world is watching. So, buckle up, because this one goes deeper than you might think. Let's start with the basics, because royal titles can be confusing, and the rules around them have been in place for over a century. According to the News International, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have made quiet but determined moves to safeguard their children's royal titles, even while living independently in California. Now, under the traditional 1917 letters patent, that's a formal decree issued by King George V, the children of a monarch's son are entitled to be called prince or princess. It's not optional, it's not up for debate, it's royal law. And when King Charles ascended to the throne in September 2022, Archie and Lilibet automatically gained that right. Technically, from that moment forward, they became Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. But here's where things get messy. Royal protocol and palace politics often complicate what should be simple matters. There were questions, delays, and according to many observers, a deliberate reluctance from certain corners of the institution to publicly acknowledge these titles. For months, the official royal website didn't update Archie and Lilibet's titles. It was only after pressure and likely some behind-the-scenes negotiations that the changes were quietly made. And that's where today's story really begins. The article cites a royal commentator who claims Meghan and Harry wanted to make sure those titles could never be stripped away, and that they had a bit of behind-the-scenes help from two royals close to them. Who? Reportedly, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, two women who've always shared a friendly bond with the Sussexes, away from the media noise. Now, before we get into what that help might have looked like, let's talk about why Beatrice and Eugenie are uniquely positioned to understand this situation. If this is true, it's actually not that surprising. Beatrice and Eugenie have long walked that fine line between royal duty and private life, much like Harry and Meghan have tried to do. Unlike William and Harry, who were raised as direct heirs, Beatrice and Eugenie grew up with royal titles, but without the pressure of being working royals. They were given the freedom to pursue careers, live relatively normal lives, and still maintain their place within the family structure. Sound familiar? That's almost exactly what Harry and Meghan hope for, a hybrid model where they could serve the monarchy while also having financial independence and privacy for their family. So Beatrice and Eugenie know what it feels like to live under the royal spotlight while still wanting some control over your own narrative. They've experienced the scrutiny, the tabloid intrusion, and the constant judgment that comes with being lesser royals. And they've also seen firsthand how the institution can sometimes be selective about who gets protection, who gets support, and who gets cast aside when it's convenient. Their own father, Prince Andrew, has faced enormous scandal, and yet the palace worked tirelessly to shield him, manage the fallout, and preserve his daughter's standing within the family. Now contrast that with how Harry and Meghan were treated. The difference is stark. So, according to the report, Beatrice and Eugenie may have offered quiet support, advocating within the family to ensure that Archie and Lilibet's royal titles remain recognised, no matter what happens between Harry, Meghan and the rest of the institution. And that's huge, because it suggests that not everyone inside the palace has turned their backs on the Sussexes. In fact, it shows that blood loyalty can sometimes transcend institutional politics, and that's something the monarchy desperately needs more of. Now, critics have often mocked Meghan and Harry, saying, if they left the royal family, why do they care about titles? And honestly, that question reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of what this is really about. But here's the thing, this was never about privilege. It's about protection, identity, and fairness. Let me break it down. Remember, during their 2021 interview with Oprah, Meghan revealed that conversations were held about whether Archie would ever be given a royal title, and, by extension, whether he'd receive security protection. In the royal system, titles aren't just ceremonial. They come with institutional resources, including security, which for a family that's faced death threats and constant harassment is not a luxury. It's a necessity. Harry has been fighting in court for years to secure police protection for his family when they visit the UK. The Home Office denied it, arguing that he's no longer a working royal. But if Archie and Lilibet have royal titles, it strengthens the argument that they deserve the same protections afforded to other grandchildren of the monarch. It wasn't about status, it was about safety and acknowledgement. Archie and Lilibet are biracial children born into one of the most traditional, historically white institutions in the world. Their very existence challenges centuries of royal norms. For Meghan and Harry, ensuring their children's titles are recognised is about affirming their place in that history not as footnotes or outsiders, but as legitimate members of the royal family with the same rights as their cousins. It's about saying, you belong here, your heritage matters, you will not be erased. And then there's the simple principle of fairness. Why should Archie and Lilibet be treated differently than Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis? They share the same grandfather. They're all grandchildren of the king. The only difference is geography and the fact that their parents chose to step back from royal duties. So, after everything they've endured, from racist undertones in headlines to smear campaigns, Meghan and Harry simply want to ensure their children's rightful place in the family's history isn't quietly erased. Some experts quoted in the News International argue that Meghan and Harry are being strategic, preserving their children's titles to keep future options open. And honestly, can you blame them? Think about it. Archie is 5 years old. Lilibet is 3. Who knows what the world will look like in 10, 15, 20 years? Maybe they'll want nothing to do with royal life, and that's totally fine. But maybe they'll want to engage with their heritage, visit the UK, participate in royal events, or even take on charitable roles connected to their grandfather's legacy. By securing their titles now, Harry and Meghan are simply ensuring that door remains open. They're not forcing their children into anything, they're giving them choices. And let's be real, we're talking about 2 kids who are, by blood, grandchildren of the King of England. Whether or not they live in California shouldn't change that. This isn't a PR move, it's a way of ensuring that Archie and Lilibet are treated equally under royal law. The 1917 letters patent doesn't say, unless they live abroad. It doesn't say, unless their parents step back from royal duties. It simply says they are entitled to those titles. Period. And if Beatrice and Eugenie truly help make that happen, then kudos to them for standing up for what's right even quietly. Because that kind of solidarity, especially from within the family, is rare in an institution that often prioritizes image over integrity. Now, here's where it gets interesting and where the real power dynamics come into play. Behind the scenes, palace insiders often describe a tug-of-war between the old guard who want to tighten royal protocols, limit who's considered working royals, and streamline the monarchy, and those who believe the institution must modernise to survive. King Charles himself has talked about wanting a slimmed-down monarchy, fewer working royals, less pomp, more efficiency. But where do Archie and Lilibet fit into that vision? Are they considered part of the slimmed-down version, or are they collateral damage in an effort to reduce costs and public spending? If Beatrice and Eugenie lent their support, it could mean that even within the firm, there's recognition that excluding the Sussex children would look terrible and be completely unjustified. Think about the optics. The monarchy is supposed to represent continuity, tradition, and family unity. But how does it look when the king's own grandchildren are treated as second-class royals simply because their parents chose independence? Because, let's be honest, the monarchy can't claim to represent family values and unity while erasing the king's own grandchildren from their birthright. So maybe this protection of titles isn't just a courtesy, it's an acknowledgement that Meghan and Harry were right all along. That the institution needs to evolve. That rigid protocols can't trump basic fairness. And that family, real family, should matter more than pride or public perception. For Meghan and Harry, the titles are symbolic but also powerful. Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet represent a new kind of royal generation one that's diverse, global, and raised outside the constraints of palace politics. They're being raised in California, surrounded by American values of independence and freedom. They're being taught about their mother's heritage, their father's lineage, and the importance of compassion and service. And that's why their parents fought to ensure their names and their identities are respected. This isn't about hierarchy, it's about heritage. It's about making sure that when history remembers the House of Windsor, it remembers all of it, not just the parts the British tabloids find convenient. And here's the beautiful irony by living outside the royal bubble. Archie and Lilibet might end up representing what the monarchy could be at its best, connected to real people, rooted in service, and free from the toxic elements that have plagued the institution for generations. They won't be bound by the same expectations, the same pressures, or the same limitations. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what the monarchy needs. So, if it's true that Beatrice and Eugenie stepped up to quietly support Meghan and Harry, that's a small but powerful act of loyalty. It shows that family can rise above institution. And it reminds us that even in a world built on titles, compassion and unity still matter more. What do you think, everyone? Were Beatrice and Eugenie right to help protect Archie and Lilibet's royal status? Do you think this move changes the royal family's image or exposes the cracks even more? Share your thoughts below, and if you love hearing the real story behind royal headlines, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Because here at Meghan and Harry Tales, we'll always stand by the truth and by the Sussexes' side. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep questioning the narratives you're fed.